Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku became a stranger part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below. And let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story 𝗧𝗵𝗃. So let's start the video. Act I. The name of this town chapter text in this small town, hidden away in a nook and cranny one would only find if they truly searched for it. 𝗧𝗵𝗵 is melancholic. He should be used to it, but the onset of sadness always hits him like a freight train. He will never get used to it. He's in his small home, cup of coffee in his hand and a book in his lap. The sea is angry tonight, for the day was not kind to her. It rained hard. The skies crying out just like Izuku does in his bed every morning before he leaves and heads to the docks. Catching fish is no easy task, but the work is numbing. Being out on sea for hours at a time doing nothing but watching and waiting leaves Izuku with a weird sort of peace. His thoughts plague his mind. They don't just go away, but they do quiet down. The sea is louder than them. But nighttime is the worst time. Sometimes the sea is content, because she barely makes a sound over the occasional crash against rocks. Those days Izuku can never sleep. He barely sleeps right as it is, sometimes dozing off in the damn boat. But those days are the worst. Tonight isn't like that, and Izuku subtly nods his head towards the sea. He has to thank her for her anger. She's helping him more than she knows. The book he's reading is bullshit on a page. Some romance novel he desperately clings onto in his mind. Maybe he can experience this romance, this love. He doubts it. Reading these books is like his high. Whenever the heroine finally gets with their love, he feels the emotions. He feels the joy, the elation. But then, the story is over. He closes the book and remembers where he is. He remembers why he moved to the middle of fuck all. And as quick as it came, he's back to his normal state of sad. He just started this book. The heroine is in a new town by herself, full of worry mixed with excitement. Izuku shakes his head. He recalls how he felt when he first moved to this town. He did not feel worry. He was not excited. He was told by a college student this was where he and his buddies used to frequent to just get away from the hustle and bustle of life. They said it was special, that you could really just go off the grid there and be free if you wanted. I could never live there, the man exclaims as the entire table laughs. Izuku laughs with them, because that's what he's supposed to do. But he pulls the man aside and asks one question. What's the name of this town? After Izuku got the name, he began to plan. He was still in his hometown going to the community college there. High school he doesn't even like. Those two words put together inspired him none. But he did like to cut hair. Figured he could make a living with that. He ended up getting his associate's degree in cosmetology. The ridiculous, outrageous plan he had made was tucked in the back of his mind, never to be talked about again. But then his mother died, and he saw no reason to stay, so he left. He had friends in high school, but they all ended up going to fancy colleges. 𝗬𝗪 Todoroki was destined for greatness, and Izuku tried not to shed a tear when he ultimately left. Henrietta was the same way, with his girlfriend Ochako Uraraka following right behind him because of her full ride scholarship. His friends were out living their lives, and here he was, still stuck in town with his entire support system 6 feet in the ground. Darkness was a sneaky mistress who liked to choke him in his sleep. She did so for days, weeks, months, until he forced her away, packed all his shit and got the hell out of Dodge. His mother always had an old, beat-up truck that belonged to his deadbeat father. He's never seen the man for as long as he's lived, and with the way he's bulked up since high school, he'd give the man the fright of his life if he ever tried to come near him. He'd give all the people who made his life hell the fright of their lives. Izuku's 23 now, and he's still short. He really had no chance of growing after he stopped in the 9th grade. But he's gained muscle. He was a scrawny little son of a bitch, and he didn't know how to fight. He didn't know how to defend himself, and he was shy. He was a walking target, and bullies never failed to shoot him with arrows. The biggest bully was Bakugou Katsuki. He was confused by Katsuki. They used to be good friends in their childhood, but high school came and Katsuki acted like he didn't know him. Everyone turned against him and Katsuki tormented him damn near every day. The physical actions like stealing his belongings, pushing him, smacking him upside the head. They all bothered him. But what cut him deep were the words. Katsuki knew how to hurt. He knew just what to say to make Izuku cry himself to sleep and show up to school with a raging headache the next day. By his senior year, Katsuki had mostly calmed down, but the damage was done. He felt pain, but it was as if he was a zombie. He was emotionless. A shell of the former boy he used to be. Katsuki ruined him. He fucking ruined him. A sick part of him wants to talk to Katsuki one more time, just to find out why. Izuku puts the book down and gets up off his couch. He glances at his clock. It's 6:30. He could drive up to Henrietta's and get something to eat. She made damn good burgers. He scratches his side and slips on a jacket and a pair of shoes. He decides he'll go. Now, Izuku knows how to cook. Inko never taught him. It's something he had to learn out of necessity. He was horrible when he first started, and he's no grand chef now. He knows what to make and how to make it to get by. But on days such as this, he likes going to Henrietta's. She's a nice lady, curvy and heavy set with red hair and red cheeks to match. Her diner feels like home, and when he sits in a booth and helps himself to a plate, it feels as though he's a child eating supper his mother cooked. For some reason tonight has him nostalgic. He might just cry after he finishes his meal, but Henrietta assured him that was quite all right. The first time he did it, he came in late. It was almost midnight, and she was behind the counter, chatting with the chef. "I'll just take a burger with fries," Izuku mutters. The sea was rough today. He's only been in this town for a week now, and every day on that stupid fucking boat is killing him. He thought he could take it, but the sea is unforgiving. The lady at the counter smiles at him. Her name tag says Henrietta. "Coming right up. Go ahead and sit at a table now." Izuku doesn't sit at a table. Rather, he chooses a booth towards the middle of the diner. As he looks out the window, he's greeted to darkness aside from the neon lights shining outside the diner. He hasn't been on this side of town before, and the only reason he's here is because he got lost. To be such a small town, it sure gets confusing at night. This diner popped up out of nowhere, and it surprised him a bit. But he was hungry and tired. He'd take anything. Henrietta comes herself to put the plate in front of him. "Cooked it with a little extra love tonight, darlin'," she says, her warm smile doing something to his heart. He nods and thanks her. As he bites into the burger, he stops. To anyone else, maybe, it would taste like a regular burger. It's got the ordinary fixings: lettuce, tomatoes, ketchup, onions, mustard. It's a normal burger, but something about it. It tastes like a twinge of home. Izuku digs in. The fries taste the same as well, and he has no idea how much time passes. It's as though he's asleep. An hour feeling like 3 minutes. Whenever he finishes, there are tear tracks down his face. He cried into the damn burger. Henrietta comes toward his table with a small hand on his shoulder. "Are you finished, hon, or do you want anything else?" He sniffles and sighs. I don't know." The sting of Inko passing was still fresh, even though it happened months ago. His mother's love is infinite. It will hurt him forever. He can't just get rid of it, even though he wishes to. It's tearing him up inside. "Well, if you order something and eat, it's fine. If you don't and cry here for an hour, it's quite all right. Everyone has feelings. We shouldn't be ashamed of that." Izuku nods. and he abruptly stands up. He sobs in the rinky-dink men's restroom. Because crying in front of a lady he doesn't even know is embarrassing. Henrietta says nothing as he comes out, eyes red and puffy. She says nothing at all. She just hands him a free milkshake on her. As Izuku drives on the roads of the town, he runs one hand through his hair. It's long, way longer than he prefers, especially since he's out on sea every day. He's just too lazy to cut it right now, green curls falling down in his face. He pushes his bangs out of his face and drives on. Henrietta's diner has a few people in it this evening, but that's fine. He's better equipped at dealing with the emotions that pertain to his mother. He's now known for hiding his feelings well. He was too open and expressive in high school. His face showed everything. He is not that boy anymore. He has become like stone. Stepping into the diner, he can hear Henrietta calling out orders to her trusty chef Greg. He walks up to the counter and Henrietta sends a beaming smile his way. "Good evening, Mr. Midoriya." The usual, Izuku nods, pulling a rubber band from his jacket pocket. "You know it," he answers, small smile gracing his face as his hair sits comfortably in a ponytail. Henrietta nods and goes right back to yelling at Greg, who looks at her fondly while throwing more burgers on the grill. The booth he sat at the first time he came to the diner is more or less his booth. He hasn't laid claim to it. It's a booth in a public restaurant, not owned by him, but the universe makes sure nobody sits in that booth every time he comes here. That's what he likes to think. Anyways, maybe the universe is mad at him or something, because someone is sitting in his booth. They have blonde spiky hair, broad shoulders, and they're in a blue collar shirt. Blonde spiky hair sends alarm bells ringing in his mind, but he immediately shuts that down. This town is literally nowhereville. There's no fucking way Bakugou Katsuki could be here. He decides to just say fuck it, and sits across from the mystery man. When he looks up, green eyes meet crimson red. Izuku physically reels back, his breath coming out fast. Bakugou Katsuki in the flesh is sitting in his booth. Izuku is more than stunned. He's downright stupefied. This isn't right, and it doesn't make sense. Bakugou's eyes get wide, and he smiles a bit. Izuku's sick to his stomach. "Izuku," Bakugou says, his tone hesitant. He doesn't warrant that with a response. He just walks away from the booth. Henrietta watches the entire thing, worry evident on her face. "Make my shit to go." Sorry," Izuku says, his hands shaking. He rubs his nose with the back of his hand and bows his head at her. Henrietta hates cursing. It was a slip-up. Izuku's not okay right now. He would have known better. "All right. Do you know him by any chance?" Izuku shakes his head violently as Henrietta puts his food in a to-go box. This has to be the worst lie imaginable, but he'll deny ever knowing Bakugou Katsuki to his grave. He wants nothing of him attached to that man, not even his memories. "No, I don't," he simply says. He takes the box with way more force than he means, and he apologizes. His steel-toed boots sound louder than he's ever heard them as he stomps his way out of the diner. He hears footsteps behind him, and his mind is racing. He has to go back home. He's safe back home. He won't be around Bakugou Katsuki, who pinches his cheek too hard and says hurtful words that don't leave him for a second, not even when he's a grown-ass man. "Wait, please," the rough voice says, and yep, that belongs to Bakugou. "No," he answers back, because that voice kind of sounds like the devil himself. "I didn't know you were." "Fuck. I just wait." Izuku doesn't wait. He swiftly turns around, holds the box in his left hand, and makes sure his fist connects to the bastard's face with his right. The punch happens in slow motion. He half can't believe he actually did it. Then, everything speeds back up, and Bakugou is groaning and cursing in Henrietta's parking lot, red dripping from his nose. Izuku doesn't apologize. He just stares for a second, and then walks off. "Don't follow me again," he mumbles, opening his truck door. He cranks the old thing up and pulls out of the parking lot, rushing home. Why Bakugou's in this town absolutely blows him. Satan has to be in the mix. Bakugou Katsuki asked to fuck his life up one more time, and the evil bitch agreed. He made sure he wouldn't be found here. He hasn't talked to his high school friends in forever. He can't even say how long it's been. He wanted every part of his life in his hometown to not be with him anymore. Everything surrounding that hellhole was painful beyond words. When he opens the door to his house, he doesn't realize how hard he's been breathing. He clutches his chest and waddles over to his kitchen. He sets the box on his kitchen island, appetite ruined. He then plops down on his couch. He's sleeping in here tonight because he has a small television in this room, and he can turn that on to drown his thoughts out. His room is a jail cell, and he'll be damned if he goes in it willingly. His back will protest this, and he'll surely cry hard enough to puke in the morning. But morning isn't even here. It's still the evening, it's not even 7, and he can force himself to go to sleep if he has to. The thing is, Izuku has seen Katsuki after high school. There was one time he remembers specifically, and it was due to his mother's passing. Izuku and Katsuki were childhood friends because their mothers were friends. It was a given that Mitsuki Bakugou would be there once news traveled around the entire town. Izuku's mother was an extremely kind woman who helped whenever she could. Izuku gets his kindness from her. She raised him all by herself. She was the strongest woman he's ever known. Her health just got to her. Izuku remembers his mother being in the hospital, remembers how awful her breathing sounded. Her eyes could barely open, and he remembers what he said to her. "If you're tired, it's okay. You can rest now." Izuku couldn't stop the flow of tears, even if he wanted to. His mother breathed in and out, not saying anything. But he could feel her squeezing his hand, and maybe she was squeezing every essence of her into him through that. Because she breathed in one last time and closed her eyes, Izuku felt it himself. The machine's beep was deafening in the small room. He squeezed back, knowing he wouldn't get one in return, but hoping anyways. It was futile. Nurses had to remove him from his mother so her time of death could be announced. He didn't put up with a fight only because all the nurses were women, and he didn't want to accidentally hurt them. His mother taught him to never lay a hand on a woman. He would not do it, especially not by her deathbed. His knees hit the ground harder than he anticipates. But it doesn't matter because the sound that's ripped from his throat is jam-packed with sorrow. It sounds like a banshee, wailing for the damned, wailing for mourning. The nurses cover their mouths with their hands as he cries on the cold hospital floor. No one will come pick him up. He knows this, so he picks himself up. He has to. Her funeral was small, but more people than he expected showed up. He was irrationally angry. The entire fucking town should have showed up to 𝗵𝗃's funeral. She gave so much of herself to this town, and it's all come to this. A small funeral because Izuku couldn't pay for a big one. Funerals are expensive. Mitsuki reached out to him and offered to chip in, but he shut that down immediately. 1. He was going to pay for this on his own. He was 𝗵𝗃's son, so he should be the one who has the final say in this entire process. 2. Mitsuki was related to Bakugou, and he wasn't going to talk to that fucker in any form, not even by proxy. He didn't want to. Imagine his surprise when the man is right behind his parents. Izuku wants to make a scene, but he loves his mother too much to do that. He and Bakugou exchange words that day, and Izuku locks that in a part of his brain he knows he can't reach unless he deliberately tries. He hopes the memory gets pushed down so far it becomes questionable. Did it really happen or did he dream it? But he knows that will never be the case. No memory with Bakugou Katsuki can be that way. "I'm sorry for your loss. It's raining because of course it is." Izuku standing in it, not concerned about getting soaked or getting this nice suit wet. He'll never wear this suit again, he'll burn it. "Get out," he barks. He utterly hates this man. But underneath all that hate is hurt. Hurt and confusion. They were so close. How could Bakugou treat him that way throughout high school? He'll never understand. I'm sorry. Bakugou whispers. Izuku's head snaps up. You're a little late with that, he notes. He didn't think Bakugou could say sorry, let alone have the words in his vocabulary. I mean it. I am. I hurt you. I shouldn't have. Shut up. Izuku screams. Shut up. And don't say another word. Just leave. He sniffles. Please. My parents. Bakugou simply says. He doesn't need to say more. Izuku can hear what he's implying. I don't give a damn about your parents. You have friends. Find a ride home, walk home. I don't care. Just get the hell out of my mother's funeral. I don't want you here. Bakugou walked away from him that day, and he never saw him again for another 2 years. That streak was broken yesterday. He wakes up in the morning, back hurting as expected. He sobs into a throw pillow, screams muffled. His mother in high school made an offhanded comment that he should see a therapist, and she would have gotten one if they weren't so goddamn expensive. The thought swims in his mind from time to time. But he's not loaded with money from fishing. He has enough to get by and a stash saved for if shit hits the fan. Or if he has to move again. The thought of moving doesn't sound too bad now that this town has been infected by Katsuki. Regardless of how he feels, he has work. Aizawa will have his head if he doesn't show up, and he's not in the mood to deal with the man scolding. He washes up, puts on his work clothes, which only consist of heavy-duty jeans, steel-toed boots, and a raincoat, pulls his hair up in a soft bun and leaves without his cup of coffee. With the way he's feeling right now, he doesn't even need coffee. Maybe this was just a one-time thing. Shit like that happens when you least expect it. Bakugou's just passing through the town. He was hungry, went to Henrietta's, and left afterwards. Maybe he won't be here today, or ever again. He hits the road and ends up at the docks sooner than he expected. Stepping out of his truck, he's greeted with the familiar faces of the crew. Working for the town's fishery has taught him a lot. There are others who have suffered just like him, even worse than him. Out on the sea, all of those worries were cast aside, because you had to have trust in your crew. The waters could turn cold and dark at any moment, and you have to know that people have your back. He trusts this crew with his life. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 is the captain, and a damn good one at that. He's stern and stoic, but he cares deeply for his crew. Aizawa claps and all of the crew come running, Izuku included. He must have something important to say. As you all know, we accept new members to the crew when someone leaves. Ruxy left just a few weeks ago, and we've needed someone to fill her spot. Luckily, a lad has come to us. Please make him feel welcome. He'll be on the waters with you all for a few weeks. Bakugou Katsuki. Everyone around him claps, but Izuku's smile falls. This can't be happening. No way. Bakugou steps up and bows a bit to the people. One of his favorite people in the crew, a girl named 𝗵𝗃, shakes Bakugou's hand. Welcome, she exclaims, and Izuku's groan. He knows what that look means. He wants to barf. Katsuki's eyes scan the crowd, and when they zero in on him, Izuku has the urge to bolt. But he doesn't, because nobody here knows about his demons. They don't know shit about him and Katsuki. To them, Katsuki's just another man who's come across hard times and needs a job. Izuku doesn't believe that for a second. His parents were already well off. Mitsuki and Katsuki's combined personalities wouldn't let their clothing brand company fail. Listen up. I'm changing the teams a little bit to accommodate for Bakugou. Someone's gonna have to teach him the ropes, and it can't be me because I'm planning for the deep sea fishing trip some of us will have to take. Izuku, will you teach him? No. He immediately says, his mouth moving faster than his mind. The crew is startled, he can tell. He's always ready to help no matter what it is. Katsuki holds his hands up. Maybe this lady here can teach me, Bakugou asks, pointing to 𝗵𝗃. Her cheeks become flushed and Izuku almost gags. Aizawa looks between the two of them for a few seconds, and Izuku swears that man is seeing right through him down to his very core. Izuku, you along with 𝗵𝗃 will train him. Izuku can teach you exactly how and what to fish, while 𝗵𝗃 will instruct you on the flora and fauna of the sea. Do we have any objections? Izuku knew there was no room for arguing. Aizawa's made it very clear what he expects, and he expects him to teach Katsuki. Yes, Captain, Izuku says begrudgingly. 𝗵𝗃's seemingly happy with the arrangement. Izuku would have thought she'd be a bit pissed, because he's going to be a massive cockblock. There's no way he's letting 𝗵𝗃 get with Katsuki. Aizawa taps his chin and points to a medium-sized boat. You three will be on 𝗧𝗵𝗃. She's not new, but she's reliable. We always use her to train newbies. I don't expect your catch of the day to be big. Hell, I don't expect you to catch anything. But when the day is over with, I want you to see me so I can assess what you've learned. Working here, you're going to be expected to pick up things quickly and efficiently. I will not put you out in the sea if you can't get that. I take safety seriously. Understood. Bakugou nods. Good. Hop to it. Aizawa walks away with the rest of crew, reading off orders for the day. 𝗵𝗃 motions for the boys to follow her, and they do. Izuku doesn't want to say a word to him. When he really looks at Katsuki, he can't lie and say he isn't stunned. He's really filled out since high school. Tan skin, big muscles with his signature tapered waist, and a band-aid sitting right on his nose. Izuku can't help but snort. He's glad he did it. I don't know if you've been told yet, but welcome to 𝗵𝗃. This town is very old, and is said to be magical, you know? Old handmaidens' tales and whatnot. But that's if you believe in that kind of stuff. Bakugou laughs a bit. I don't believe in magic, but thanks. They all board 𝗧𝗵𝗃, and 𝗵𝗃 takes them away from the dock out onto the sea. Izuku turns to Bakugou and sighs. I'm here to teach you only. We don't talk more than that lest you want another pop to the face. Bakugou closes his eyes. I get it. Izuku shakes his head and points to the sea. At this fishery, we mostly catch salmon. The placement of the dock was chosen because of how it's along the coast, and many fish flock towards coasts. That's due to the abundance of nutrients. We plot and chart the best places in the sea schools of salmon will be. Certain seasons are better than others. 𝗵𝗃 is usually cold, so right now is the best. Wintertime produces a big profit for us. How long have you been here? Bakugou asks. Izuku's eye twitches. That had nothing to do with fishing. You sound like you know a lot about this town. You don't learn shit like that without being there for a while. 2 years, 𝗵𝗃 shouts from where she's steering the boat. He's been so good to us for 2 years. Izuku's never wanted to throw his shoe at a person more. You were always good. You talk like you know anything about me. I used to, Bakugou says, and Izuku can hear the longing in his voice. It's odd. Why are you here? 𝗵𝗃 is literally in the middle of fucking nowhere. Why are you on this boat trying to learn how to fish? It's a long story. You probably wouldn't want to hear it. Izuku thinks for a second. You're right. I don't care. Don't get in my way. Act like you've never seen me before in your life, all right? Bakugou smirks. It's sad. I couldn't do that even if I tried. I won't try. I ask you for one thing, and you can't even do it. You're still a piece of shit. Izuku absolutely hates with every fiber of his being that Bakugou has some hide on him. He has to look up a bit to even talk to the man. You don't want to talk to me except when we're at work? Fine. But you can't ask me to act like I don't know who you are. Izuku cackles, the sound horrible in the air. That's the funny thing, Katsuki. You don't know who I am. You never will. Izuku gestures with his hand for Bakugou to follow him. He leads the man to the trawl. Midway trawling is the type of fishing we do here. We go out into the charted areas and release the trawl net into the sea. This type of trawling is more environmentally friendly since the trawl net doesn't come into contact with the seabed. Trawling takes finesse. You have to trust yourself about when to drop the net. You're not going to get this in a week, but you do need to know how to help with taking care of the catches. I'll teach you that when we actually catch something. 𝗵𝗃 whistles from where she's perched. Bakugou, we're probably going to the tavern tonight. Do you want to come with us? Bakugou is silent for a beat. Sure. 𝗵𝗃 claps her hands and whoops. You're going to be a part of this crew in no time. We'll have to see how much you can drink. Izuku, you gotta come. He very well doesn't have to come. Bakugou turns to him. Go for your crewmates. Ignore me. I'll do as you wish. Thought you just said you wouldn't even try. Regardless of my shit actions, you're still the same little boy you were before. It's apparent you still care about people. You help. I know that you, and I'll never act like I don't. As for the adult you, I can pretend like you're a stranger. Izuku's at a loss for words. He just nods as 𝗵𝗃 steers them, smiling and waving at the other boats. Plus, the tavern is packed, but that was to be expected. Izuku can't believe he actually decided to come. He'll probably leave in 20 minutes. Excuses already lined up in his mind. He and his crew plus Bakugou are all seated at a round table, beer bottles clinking and laughter ringing. 𝗵𝗃 is sandwiched between he and Bakugou because he insisted. 𝗵𝗃 had no problem with it, and Bakugou was a closed book. He couldn't read the man at all. All right. We gotta ask pretty boy here some questions, okay? Mizuo exclaims. Mizuo was a burly man with long black hair that was beginning to gray and a thick beard. He's made Izuku laugh more times than he can count. He also makes a mean plate of ribs. Bakugou's on his third bottle of the night, and Izuku briefly wonders himself how much he has to drink to get shit-faced. Maybe he can get drunk enough for Izuku to throw his ass in the dirt. Ask away, Bakugou says, gesturing to himself. You got a girl? Bakugou laughs. Hell no. 𝗵𝗃 takes a shot glass off the table and gulps it in one sip. Bakugou's eyebrows raise and Mizuo whistles. No girl. But you're looking at 𝗵𝗃. A Casanova he is. The table erupts in laughter, but Izuku finds nothing funny. I have a question, he says, a bit hesitant. Bakugou's head snaps over to him. Why are you here? Bakugou ducks his head and sighs. It's a long story. Shorten it. I've got problems I don't want to deal with. Made my escape here. Decided I'd stay. Short enough for you. What problems? Does it concern you? You don't give a damn what happens to me. You're right, I don't. But you can't be here. Who says? Bakugou asks, crossing his arms over his chest. Izuku does the same. I say, get out. Bakugou throws his head back with how loud he's laughing. The entire table has more or less fallen silent. You can't kick me out of this town. Even if you did, I'd come right back. Why is that? Because I have to fix what I broke with you. Even if you think it's beyond repair. I have to fix it. I have to fix you because I broke you. Time has stopped for Izuku. He doesn't notice his crew, the patrons, the workers, nothing. It's just him and Bakugou. That feeling is in his chest again. The feeling he denies with everything he has. The feeling he doesn't want to have. Fix me, he says, his voice cracking. You can't fix me. You're too late. Too fucking late. I hate you. I'm going to hate you for the rest of my life, and I'll hate you in my next one. Do you get that? I won't ever like you. You ruined. He stops. He's said too much. He abruptly stands up. Thanks for acting like a stranger, jackass. He mutters, placing money for his portion of the tab on the table. He pulls his jacket around himself and walks out of the tavern, knowing he will be asked a plethora of questions the next time he sees his crewmates. Waiting for a cab to drive him home, he wonders just who told Bakugou about this town. If he's escaping his problems, it couldn't have been his parents. He lost his cool tonight. He can't let that happen again. He will become like a statue around Bakugou Katsuki. He will not show any more emotion. The bastard doesn't deserve to see it. I hate you. Bakugou nods. He expected that. I know. I'll never stop loving you, though. 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲 sits right in front of him. Hair long and freckles sprinkled across his face. Katsuki wants to kiss them all one by one. How can you love me? You were so mean. I was mean because I loved you. I was scared to love you. I was scared of myself. Izuku gives him a pensive look. Are you scared now? A bit. But that doesn't matter anymore. I'll face any fear of mine to be with you. Izuku smiles a bit. Did you know? Bakugou shakes his head. What? The wind is picking up in the flower field they're sitting in. Izuku looks ethereal. I love you, too. Bakugou sits up, his cheeks wet. He wipes at his face and sighs. It's not the first time he's had that damn dream, and it won't be the last. He fumbles around for the light switch, and a dim light shines in his room. He picks up his phone and sees a few unopened messages. They're all from his friends. Bakugou throws his phone on the bed and puts his head in his hands. At the age of 24, he's changed a lot. His changes have been so drastic, you wouldn't believe he was the monster he was when he was a teenager. He was definitely a monster, though. Him ending up in 𝗵𝗃𝗃 was chance. He needed to escape from the clutches of responsibility, and his best friend Kirishima recommended the town to him. Said the town was known through word of mouth and fishing communities. Izuku loved to fish, so Bakugou wasn't surprised he knew about this place. He did not think he'd see 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃. It was a pleasant surprise, but the times they've talked have been anything but. He knew if he ever saw Izuku again, it would be like this. He had said and done hurtful things in his youth, but he wasn't aware the extent of Izuku's hatred until his mother's funeral. Izuku didn't say much, but he could feel it. Izuku would probably kill him if pushed to the limit. After high school, he approached college in a different way. He recognized the error of his ways in his senior year, but there was no more time. He and Izuku would separate. He would have no time to repair their relationship. He didn't have to be a jerk in college, and he gained friends along with it. As fate would have it, some people in his circle of friends were buddies with Izuku's friends in high school. Things didn't blow over well with that. His past was outed, and he thought he would be all alone. Ida would barely say words to him. Ochako cursed him out any chance she got, and he was sure 𝗧𝗪𝗏 wanted him dead. He doesn't know how it happened, but the relationships got better. He can proudly say they're all his friends now, but none of them knew where Izuku was or what he was doing. They tell him they haven't heard from him since the man was 19. He debates telling them he knows where Izuku is. The man obviously moved here to get away from shit. Inko was his world. Even when he was rage on legs, he knew that. Their hometown probably reminds him of tainted memories. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 really is a breath of fresh air. He's only been here a week, and he feels different than he does in the city. In the city, he deals with business meetings, launch dates, and the nagging of his parents. Here, he's tasked with the interesting work of a fishery. If they don't know where Izuku is, then he's deliberately not talking to them. Bakugou wonders why that is. Sometimes he questions if trying to fix this relationship is worth it. He hurt Izuku, the kind of hurt that sticks with you. He wants Izuku to know how sorry he is. He wants the man to believe it. Not for his conscience, but for Izuku's. If Izuku can find closure, maybe he could be happier. He wonders what it'll take for him to get it. He knows Izuku wants him gone, but he can't leave. He really is dodging responsibilities. He wants to work on them. He's content with loving Izuku by himself for the rest of his life. It's what he deserves. If he can get Izuku to smile at him, to understand that he was a stupid, scared little teen, he'll be content. His father once told him love is wanting to see the person you adore happy no matter what. And he gets it now. He thought it was a load of bullshit as a teen, but he's not ignorant anymore. He gets that. Even if Izuku gets married and has children with some girl, or ends up shacked up with some dude, it doesn't matter to him. He wants to see him happy. He'll figure out ways to make him happy. Plus, you want to know what things Izuku likes to do? 𝗵𝗃 asks as they ride on Flipper. Apparently, it's Izuku's off day, but not his. 𝗵𝗃's his sole teacher, and she's been talking to him about the algae and moss that like to grow around the docks, sometimes getting on the boats. It's a pain in the ass to clear it out, but you gotta do it. She tells him. I do know he likes reading a lot. He'll go to Yagi's bookstore frequently. He also likes the antique shop that's run by Aizawa's son, Shinsu. Bakugou blinks as 𝗵𝗃 steers Flipper away from rocks. Aizawa has a son. Adopted. Shinsu was abandoned, and Aizawa decided to take the boy in. He's just like his father, except a bit more talkative. He and Izuku get along pretty well. An irrational flare of jealousy burns bright in Katsuki's chest. Izuku isn't his. He'll probably never be. If Shinsu is someone he likes, then Bakugou will just have to help move that along. He also loves Henrietta's diner. A brief twinge of pain is felt on his nose. Thanks. 𝗵𝗃 looks at Bakugou a few times. She wants to ask him something, he can tell. What is it? He asks first. When we were at the tavern, you said you needed to fix Izuku because you broke him. Aizawa's been working us to the bone since this is our busiest season, so I haven't gotten to ask you about it. What did you mean? Bakugou sighs and rubs his hands on his face. He'll throw me overboard if he knows I told you this. Keep it to yourself, okay? 𝗵𝗃 frantically nods. He and I have known each other since we were in diapers. Our mothers were close friends. In high school, I was mean to him. I hurt him bad. I made him into the cold man he is today. I wasn't the only one who said things to him, but I believe my words and actions hurt the most because of how close we used to be. I regret it all now, and I want to fix it. I don't know if he'll let me. 𝗵𝗃 frowns. Just how mean were you? Bakugou can feel the shame weighing down on him. Mean? Why do you even try, huh? Bakugou asks, pinning Izuku against the lockers. The boy looked around rapidly, and Bakugou knew he wanted someone to come save him. That wasn't going to happen. Why do you try? Why don't you just piss off? Izuku gulps. Because I can't. I go to school here just like you. Bakugou punches the locker next to Izuku hard, the sound loud through the hallway. You're mouthy today. Listen here, asshat. I want you to take your measly little self and jump off the top of the school building, okay? Izuku gasps in disbelief. Bakugou feels nothing as he says it. He has made his heart cold due to fear. What the hell is wrong with you? Izuku shouts. Bakugou's eyes widen. He grabs Izuku by the collar of his shirt and eyes him. Me? What's wrong with you? Why do you even exist? Do you know what you do to me? You make me sick just looking at you. Tears are running down Izuku's face. Some part of Bakugou wants to take back everything he just said. He wants to scoop the frightened boy up in his arms and tell him it was cruel. He's cruel, and he'll never say anything like that again. Then he remembers what he has to inherit. He remembers his duties to the company. Bakugou lets Izuku go and shakes his head. Pathetic. Whether he's talking to himself or Izuku, he'll never be able to discern. We're probably non-repairable, but I want to at least make sure he has a good life. He won't accept any money I give him under any circumstance, so I'll have to be covert about it. 𝗵𝗃 steers them back to the docks. The fact that you're willing to try and that you realize what you did was wrong is half the battle, my friend. Bakugou smiles a bit at her. It doesn't reach his eyes. Half the battle, huh? I got the other half ahead of me? 𝗵𝗃 rolls her eyes. This won't be easy. You have to keep trying, no matter what. Bakugou wishes he had a beer with him right now. Got it, boss. Plus, the bookstore is small and cozy. It's perfect for the town. Toshinori Yagi is the owner of said bookstore, and he's standing at the front, flipping through a magazine while sipping an energy drink. The man has a bit of blood under his nose. Bakugou taps the counter. Welcome, young man. I don't think I've ever seen you before. You're bleeding. Yagi touches his nose and gasps a bit. He whips out a tissue and dabs it underneath his nose, frowning. It never seems to stop. No matter, the show must go on. What kind of book are you looking for today? He shakes his head. You have a frequent customer, Izuku Midoriya, correct? Yagi nods. What kind of books does he like to buy? Yagi smiles. Are you looking for a gift for young Midoriya? Bakugou doesn't know how to respond to that. He nods anyways. Yagi claps his hands. Ah, young love is a beautiful thing. He usually buys romance books. Let me take you to the section. Bakugou follows the skinny man and watches as he stops in the middle of the walkway. He pulls out a book and hands it to Bakugou. This is probably a book young Midoriya would like. It's more historical fiction, but the romance element is all the same. A man at war, while the woman waits behind, reminiscing on their past memories. Joy and elation when they meet again. Yes, he will like this book very much. Bakugou takes the book and smiles. Thank you. They walk back to the front counter, and Bakugou ends up purchasing the book. He's about to walk out when he stops. He turns to Yagi. Could you keep this book with you up there? Give it to him the next time you see him. Wait, do you have a pen and paper? Yagi nods. Writing a love letter, are we? Bakugou rolls his eyes. Just a letter. He scribbles a note fast and folds it, sticking it inside the book. He passes it to Yagi, who tucks it underneath the front counter somewhere. It is safe with me. You're new to 𝗵𝗃, aren't you? Yeah, I am. Yagi sighs and looks out the window of his store. You've probably heard, but 𝗵𝗃 is known for having a bit of magic. Wishes can very well come true here. Keep that in mind, young man. Bakugou, he blurts. My name is Bakugou. Yagi holds a hand out. Bakugou shakes it. All right, young Bakugou. I hope your endeavors with Izuku are fruitful. He needs some light in his life. I can feel it around him, the cloud of depression. Guilt is like sand. You roll around in it, and no matter how much you try to wash it off, you can still feel grains between your fingers, between your toes. Bakugou can't wash off all this guilt. He nods and backs out of the store, chest tight. He walks towards his car, which is a bit too nice to be in this town, and grips the steering wheel hard. 𝗧𝗪𝙢 has been blowing his phone up for the last 2 hours, but he's ignored it. He drove past the antique shop, and to his surprise he saw Izuku inside. He was looking at a vase, the owner Shinsu saying something to him that made him laugh a bit. He almost puked on his dash. He might as well answer 𝗧𝗪𝙢 now. He calls the man, and he picks up on the first ring. What the hell have you been doing, man? I've called you like 5 times. Sorry, I was taking care of some business. What's up? Your parents, specifically your mother, are constantly on my ass. They know that I know where you went. I can't dodge her questions for much longer. Bakugou, tell me you have a plan at least. He can confidently say he has no plan. I'm working on it. 𝗧𝗪𝙢 scoffs. Working on it? What does that even mean, bro? It means I found something I have to take care of first. I can't miss this opportunity. I'm also working on a plan to fix this entire mess. You'll lose your title as successor if you don't. You know, IG, I'm starting to not want that shit. 𝗧𝗪𝙢 pauses. What? You heard me. That shit has been a pain in my ass since I was a teenager. I acted like a complete douchebag because I knew I would be the successor. I hurt people I shouldn't have. You know about my past. Now, I have to marry someone I don't want to just for the sake of my mother tightening our bond with the rest of the family in Japan. My abilities should speak for themselves. But nobody gives a damn about that, I've learned. Ijuru sighs. I'm sorry, bro. But you either have to find someone else to marry, find a new successor, or find a new job entirely. This business was made by my family from the ground up. But if I have to give it up, I think I will. I'll be in this town for a while. You're not gonna fill me in on exactly why, are you? Bakugou chuckles. Nah. But just know I'm okay. Thanks, man. You're my brother. I got your back. Bakugou hangs up after that, and his eyes sting. Anzu was a nice girl. She was very pretty and successful like him. But he didn't love her. He only loved one person, and that person hated him the most. He hoped Izuku liked the book, at least. There were times in high school where the guilt would choke Katsuki out, and he'd end up crumbling around Izuku. See, he bullied the boy a lot, but he had moments where he was nice. That just made the moments where he would be mean again sting even more, he supposes. A pat on the shoulder here, handing him something to eat his mother cooked there. The worst times were when their mothers would interact. Both boys would put on an act just to appease family. Even in high school, he had an inkling of a feeling his mother was well aware of his nature. She never outright said anything though, just gave him a too hard pat on the back every time Izuku and Inko would leave. His mother didn't need to say a thing. The realization on his own was enough. He's been in town for a hot minute, and he hasn't explored much. Aside from updates from Ijuru, he's just been going to work and coming back home. Occasionally, he'll hang out with Kami at her house, but he mostly keeps to himself. He's also seen Yagi from time to time as well. He hasn't gotten the courage to walk into the antique shop. He fears that if he sees what kind of person Shinsu is, he'll hate the man less. He and Kami are together now, eating lunch in the employee quarters. Some of my friends or I are going to Coral Cove tonight. You want to come with? He had promised Ijuru that he'd Skype with him and the rest of his friends back home. But this sounded interesting. Izuku will be there. Kami whispers, her eyes darting around the room. He snorts at her antics and shakes his head. Then I'm gonna have to decline. I want him to have a good time. Kami frowns, pouting. Aw, come on. You guys don't even have to talk to each other. I want to show you all the cool coral that grows there. It's like a rainbow. I'll go with you another day, all right? He says, standing up to throw his trash away. He pats her on the shoulder and internally cringes at her forlorn expression. She really wanted him there. He hopes she doesn't like him like that. He's already expressed to her who has his heart. Maybe she actually values him as a friend. A twinge of self-deprecation punches him right in the gut. He feels a bit sick. He doesn't deserve her friendship like that, to where she's peeved he won't come. He walks out of the employee quarters and sees Izuku sitting by the dock. They don't talk more than they have to. Izuku makes sure of it. Bakugou enforces it. He won't make Izuku uncomfortable. He ducks his head, pushing the cap he has on down more. Hopefully Izuku won't notice him. Izuku looks up, and he keeps walking. Katsuki. Izuku says, his tone sharp. Fat chance he had. He stops and looks at Izuku. Izuku's eyes are cold, as always. Yeah? He asks, coughing a bit. We need to talk. About what? With the nature of their relationship, casual talks just can't be a thing. No matter how much Bakugou's trying to make it that way. You bought me a book. Bakugou sticks his hands in his pockets, rocking back and forth on his heels. That I did. You left a note. Bakugou's sweating a bit. Yeah. I did. His voice cracks. Izuku doesn't say anything. He just stares at him. Bakugou can't tell what he's thinking. Izuku used to be so expressive. His eyes literally were the windows to his soul, and now he can't see a damn thing. Just darkness. Don't do it again. He nods. Duly noted. Izuku sighs loudly, throwing his head up to the sky. It is a good book, though. He mumbles, not even facing Bakugou. You like it? Has he done something right? If I say yes, you need to never do anything like that again. Done. Then, yes. I've been looking at that book for 2 weeks now, debating if I should get it. Bakugou can't help it. A smile stretches across his face. Izuku isn't smiling at him, but he isn't frowning either. Getting this book doesn't fix shit, you know that, right? Bakugou clasps his hands together, smile not going anywhere. I know. But you like it, and that's all I wanted. Really. You didn't expect me to run in your arms and tell you I forgive you. I didn't expect anything. I'm glad you like the book. Izuku looks skeptical, but Bakugou can see it in his eyes finally as clear as day. He's surprised. Bye, Izuku, he says, walking away. Better to leave now than have the conversation get more awkward. They have more work to do, and Bakugou might just take on a night shift. He's graduated from Flipper and is now on Mizuo's boat. Harder work indeed, but it's calming. His phone rings, and he pulls it out to answer it. It's Anzu. He sighs. He doesn't have the mental capacity to deal with this bullshit, but it must be done. He knows he has to stay at a comfortable spot, lest the pot tip over and everything goes to shit. Bakugou? Anzu asks, her voice high and tinny in his speaker. What's up? He asks. Anzu giggles a bit. I can't call my fiancé. Bakugou groans. Anzu, you don't really want to marry me, do you? He lowers his voice a considerable amount. You around your parents? No, silly. Getting to know you over these past few months has been fun. I know it's an arranged marriage, but would it be so bad to just try it out? Bakugou firmly believed in marrying someone you loved. Anzu was sweet, she was fine. But he did not love her in the slightest. He never would. I don't know. Where are you? The fall luncheon was a week ago, and you still haven't come back home. Family overseas are getting worried about you. My mother told relatives in Japan I was missing. More like she has no clue where you're at. Now other companies know the successor to Musashi isn't at work. My guess is they think you're not taking your job seriously. Bakugou's back in the employee quarters, and he slams his hand on the door. How did word spread? If she just told my relatives they shouldn't gossip. Anzu clicks her tongue. You know how it is. Business is cutthroat. Many in Japan recognize Musashi as a top brand, and you taking over is already news there. You're handsome, smart, kind. You're what every single adult wants right now. Me being the daughter of the owner of 5-star restaurant 𝗵𝗃 just makes our union even better. Our families would dominate the fashion and food markets respectively. Bakugou rolls his eyes. He's well aware of why he's being forced in an arranged marriage with Anzu. I needed to get away. All of that shit is stressful. Kind of wish I could go back to just modeling. That was easier than the business side of things. Bakugou and Anzu met as models. She's been a friend, but not a close one. He honestly wishes his mother never found that piece of information out. He has a feeling 𝗎𝗎𝗎 ran his big mouth and let it slip at some point. You're not wrong. But if we don't take over, who will? And that was the million-dollar question. If Bakugou truly denounced his position as successor, who would take his place? He has no brothers or sisters. His parents are getting older. They want to retire. He would definitely hand it over to 𝗎𝗎𝗎 in a heartbeat. But Kirishima's told him multiple times he's happy at his job. He can't force his friend into his mess. Let's push the wedding back to next year. If Japanese and American media are going to be watching us like hawks, I need this time to myself. I need this. You don't want to marry a crazy man, do you? So, just let me stay where I'm at. Where are you at, Katsuki? I can't tell you, 'cause you'll tell my mom, and what little grip I have on my sanity will be gone. Just know I'm safe, and I'm thinking about our marriage. Bakugou wants to ask her right now, does she love him? He's terrified of what she might say, and he's always been a coward, so he holds his tongue. That's all I ask. You need to keep me updated. He promises her he will, and she hangs up. She's miles and miles away from him, but he can feel her anger. Anzu was a bit spoiled. She meant well, he can tell, but she sometimes has fits when she doesn't get what she wants. She'd probably bust a vein knowing he was in love with a man. When he shoves his phone into his back pocket, someone with purple hair and sleepy eyes is staring at him. Bakugou's seen him before. Qinsū. Have you seen Izuku? His fist tightens instinctively. Last saw him sittin' by the dock. He's either out at sea or he left. Qinsū nods. So, you're the jackass, huh? He described you. Your hair is so distinct, you really can't miss it. Bakugou should have seen this coming. Him coming into Izuku's space, this town he was bound to vent to someone he trusted. Qinsū was that person. He really didn't know what to say to him, so he just shakes his head like an idiot. Yeah, that's me. Qinsū chuckles a little, his shoulders moving slightly. He's in a red graphic t-shirt, jeans, and simple sneakers. He's the epitome of chill. It's kinda weird you're in the same town as him. I mean, you bullied him relentlessly for years. What's a man supposed to think? I don't do that anymore. Bakugou states firmly, because he 100% means it. Qinsū holds his hands up. I'm not saying you do. I care for Izuku, but you give him anxiety. Then, you go and buy him a book. I mean, what is that, man? Bakugou does have anger issues, but for the most part he's contained them since his youth. The way Qinsū's talking to him is threatening to send him back. I just hold on. I don't have to explain myself to you. I don't even know you. I never said you had to explain yourself to me, pal. But you feel guilty, and that's good. Bakugou blinks. What the hell does that mean? Izuku feels something towards you. I don't know what it is, maybe nostalgia or something, but you're guilty. You bought him a book. You want to fix things, don't you? How much did he fucking tell you? Told me enough. Now, I should let you know that if you hurt him again, I'll kill you, or something like that. But I don't think I have to tell you anything. Qinsū looks him dead in the eye and Katsuki shivers. Aren't you supposed to be looking for Izuku? Qinsū puts his hands on his hips. Maybe. Are you too? Qinsū snorts. No. Why, you like him. Bakugou pulls a seat from a table and sits down, head in hands. Does that even matter? Qinsū pauses for a second. It matters. You don't do the things I did to someone you like. Someone you love. Qinsū goes to speak, but Aizawa walks in the room. Break time's over, Katsuki. Either come back to the boats or go home, son. Bakugou stands up again and stretches his back. I think I'm gonna go home. He's been here long enough, and talking to this many people has utterly drained him. Qinsū shakes his head. He's common with me, Oyaji. He hasn't stepped foot in my shop. Aizawa smiles a bit, ruffling Qinsū's hair. Well, my son put his heart in that antique shop. Some kids in Bannock think Qinsū has a mummy in there, or something. Aizawa and Qinsū laugh a bit at that. Bakugou waves a hand. You know, I don't think I can go today. Qinsū turns to him, eyes like steel. You're coming. Plus Qinsū's antique shop looked as rugged could get. It was painted a maroon color, but it was peeling. The door looked like it could fall off its hinges at any moment, and Bakugou's pretty sure if he walks in he'll see water stains on the ceiling. But he knows what it feels like to build something yourself and have it work. Welcome to my pride and joy. The air smells like maple and spice. No matter how run down the building looks, the space is inviting. Bakugou takes a look around. There were some pretty antique pieces here, and he surmises Shinsu probably got them from the elders of the town. Do you drive out to get pieces for the shop? 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗧𝗏 is. It's small. Do you get customers daily? Yeah, the town's small, but the changing of seasons always brings newcomers. Having and taking care of the shop is my way of preserving the history of 𝗵𝗃𝗃. Bakugou nods. He understands that. How did you meet Izuku? He came into my store crying. He said he saw a pretty rose quartz necklace, and he just wanted to take a look at it as a distraction. Said the sea was going to actually murder him, and that he wanted to go home. But home was worse than this. Worse than being in a town full of people he doesn't even know. Shinsu walks up to a clock and checks it out. I sold him the necklace. It's actually a talisman, if you believe in that stuff. Eases the pain of a broken heart and all that jazz. He never wears it. In all his time of being in 𝗵𝗃𝗃, he hasn't seen Izuku with a rose quartz necklace once. A talisman isn't something you show off. He actually believes in the kind of shit that goes on in 𝗵𝗃𝗃. What the hell does that mean? Shinsu grins, and even that looks lackadaisical. When you came here, did you ever think you'd see Izuku? Bakugou shakes his head no. The town is old. Older than any of us really know. You think it was chance? Just a coincidence? Maybe. But the town knows what people need. Shinsu walks toward the back of the store and comes out with a necklace. A small clock is attached to it. Shinsu holds it out in front of Bakugou. It's time for you to atone for your past transgressions. I should fucking hate you. Izuku didn't deserve anything you did to him. I can't though, because if I hated you enough, I would have kicked you out and Izuku would never find closure. You're here for a reason whether you believe it or not. Fix it, Bakugou. It's not impossible. Bakugou, against everything in him, takes the necklace. He pauses for a second. Was the book that bad? Shinsu chuckles a bit. That was actually decent. A decent gift, indeed. Both men laugh quietly, and the door to Shinsu's shop rings. Shinsu, I'm finally here, but I can only stay for an hour or two. Izuku stops in the middle of his sentence, looking at the both of them. Bakugou steps back from Shinsu, clock necklace still in his hand. I was just leaving, Bakugou says. Shinsu nods, putting his hands in his back pockets. Bakugou's walk out of the shop feels like the fucking walk of shame. He feels as though Izuku just caught he and Shinsu doing things they shouldn't have. In Izuku's world, Bakugou was doing something he shouldn't. He was talking and laughing with one of his new friends. Bakugou can't hear what they're saying, but Izuku's having a heated discussion with Shinsu. He takes a look at the clock necklace. The clock is small and worn. The brown wood is chipped, but it actually works, presenting the correct time. Bakugou didn't believe in magic, in any of this shit. He barely believed in fate. He has half the mind to give this necklace back to Shinsu. But he doesn't. He puts it around his neck and drives back to the small home he rents. For some reason, it feels like the right decision. Yagi Toshinori is not young. He's seen a lot, so he's learned a lot. Traveling the world was fun. But then he realized he just wanted to settle down and lay low. He wanted to spend the rest of his days in a quiet place. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 was perfect for it. He also met Aizawa, which was no big deal. Only the man was the love of his life. Aizawa even had a son. He had really struck gold here. So nowadays, he leaves his home with Aizawa, opens his shop up early, and stays open all day until he's tired. Some might think an existence like that is boring, but 𝗵𝗃𝗃 is no ordinary town. The things he's subtly experienced, the trinkets people wear, the way when people come into 𝗵𝗃𝗃 they leave forever changed. It's never boring here. Izuku Midoriya has become something like son to him since the boy came 2 years ago. He was obviously lost. And one night after Izuku had too many beers from the tavern, he came bumbling into Yagi's store crying about a mother who's gone and friends he doesn't talk to anymore. Yagi's not ignorant. 𝗵𝗃 is an escape center. Sandwiched between two dense, big forests, it's really not surprising word of mouth is the only way people hear of 𝗵𝗃. He doesn't know how Izuku found out about 𝗵𝗃. He's just glad the boy did. In the 2 years he's known Izuku, the boy is the most selfless but distant person he talks to. He thought Shinsu was bad, but Izuku has him beat by a mile. There is something always weighing on that boy's mind. It does involve his mother. People usually aren't the exact same after a close death like that. But it's also something else. Someone else. Yagi prides himself on absolutely giving a damn about the gossip in town. He learns so much that way. Kami was picking up a book on flora and fauna of coastal areas when she spoke. We have a rookie here. I'm gonna give him this book so he can read it. I don't want himself getting hurt out on sea and the areas we fish. Yagi nods as he rings the book up. Are you renting this? She nods. Bakugou can bring it back himself. Yagi furrows an eyebrow. Bakugou? Yeah, he's new. Izuku's the only person who knows him. They don't get along, so wish me luck. Yagi had never met Bakugou until the boy dropped in his store, but something in his gut told him this was the other someone. When Bakugou came in his store, he was dripping with nervousness and uncertainty about what he was doing. He simply wanted to buy Izuku a book. But Yagi felt as though there was a deeper meaning than just buying a book. He didn't know what that was exactly, but it wasn't a simple gesture. His theory proved to be true when Izuku came into his store a few days later. Hey, Yagi, any new books? Izuku asks. He's relaxed, but there's an edge to him, like he's on alert. Oh Izuku, go out with your friends. The books will always be here. Izuku laughs a bit. I haven't been here in a hot minute, and besides, I just went out with Shinsu yesterday. Now, books please. Yagi clears his throat. Actually, a handsome lad left one for you. Izuku's visibly confused. Yagi initially thought Shinsu was fond of Izuku in that way. Thought the man was going to ask him out. But that never happened. He's realized now both men don't feel that way. And so Izuku's never dated anyone at any point here. Shinsu has a fling he sees from time to time whenever he leaves town. But he doesn't talk about the man much. Just that his name is 𝗵𝗃. Who was it? Yagi's about to say the man's name, but the amethyst bracelet Yagi wears around his wrist unexpectedly burns a bit. It's a talisman representing wisdom. His gut feeling is right. Take the book first, Yagi says, reaching underneath the counter and presenting it to Izuku. The bracelet is cool again. Izuku smiles. Someone bought this for me. You know I've wanted to read this for weeks. The note Bakugou left in the book drops to the floor. Izuku picks it up, trying to hand it back to Yagi. You left one of your notes in here, old man. The bracelet burns something fierce, and Yagi practically shoves it back to Izuku. That's for you, young Midoriya. Read it. Yagi rubs his wrist because couldn't the forces of the universe make revelations less painful? Izuku shrugs and opens the note, glancing at it. His entire face changes, and the bracelet feels normal again. He frowns. That bastard bought this for me? Yagi furrows his eyebrows. You use colorful words towards Bakugou often? Yagi asks. Izuku sighs and slams the book on Yagi's counter. I'll kill him for this. You know, he was nervous buying that for you. Fidgety, clammy. He wants you to like it. I helped him. You helped him. Yagi, Izuku starts, but then he stops. You wouldn't even know. The bracelet turns ice cold, and Yagi closes his eyes. You two have a rocky history. No? Izuku slowly nods. That's the understatement of the century. It's none of my business, but history does not have to repeat itself. Open yourself to all the possibilities. Pain weighs down on a person, It makes them a shell of their former self. You are not your true self when past events cloud your life. You have no idea what he did to me. Forgiveness doesn't have to be for him. It needs to be for you. Izuku balls his fists. It's not that easy. Nothing in life is easy, young Midoriya. But that doesn't mean we don't try anyway. Izuku rips the letter up, throwing the pieces in the trash. That book stays here. I have to go. Yagi wants to say something, but a warning pulse of heat is sent through the bracelet. He keeps his mouth shut. Izuku practically storms out of his store. Yagi's too old for this bullshit, to be honest. But that won't stop the powers that be. He received the amethyst talisman when he first came to the town. Ever since he was young, he had a knack for figuring things out on his own. And an old lady Aizawa was close to gave it to him one day. Told him that he needed to have it, that it was virtually made for him. Aizawa urged him to take it, and so he did. He's more or less learned to decipher what the bracelet is telling him based on its temperature. Izuku and Bakugou needed to heal. That much was true. They were bad off. If they can change, it'll definitely be here. Yagi mutters to himself, touching his fingertips to the gems. He just hoped Izuku would stop lying to himself. Yagi knew it the moment Izuku opened the letter. He might have strong feelings of hatred, but he also has strong feelings of love. The gems glow as the thought passes through his head. His gut feeling is never wrong. Izuku was an imaginative child, and that carried over to his adult self, whether he liked it or not. He could not shake the true nature of his mind, and that was believing in all the questionable shit that goes on in Bannock. He's lived here for 2 years, so he's become like everyone else, not questioning it. Not that he cares, but he wonders how Bakugou will react when something goes on. Shinsu giving him that damn necklace probably isn't helping anything, probably just freaking him out. He's known ever since he was young how Katsuki felt about things like that. Katsuki was a realist to the letter. He would never listen to any of that stuff. He hasn't talked to Shinsu in a few days since then. He can't believe Shinsu got along with Katsuki. Maybe he really has changed. But even if that's the case, it's not easy for Izuku to forget. What did you say to him? Izuku asks, furious. Shinsu frowns. Do you need to know? It'll upset you. Everything about that man upsets you. Tell me now, Shinsu. I gave him a necklace. Told him it was time to atone. Izuku runs his hands in his hair, pulling to the root. The pain stabilizes him. What? Why the hell would you do that? Shinsu shrugs. I'm tired of seeing you like this. You've been a big ball of anxiety ever since he came. You're close to hitting rock bottom, just like how you were when you first came here. I don't want to see you get there, Izuku. You both need to heal. You had no right. You need this. You won't let anybody help you. Besides, it's just a necklace. Why are you afraid of that? Izuku believed some things in Bannock didn't happen only because of chance, so a clock could mean anything. He just didn't know what. Shinsu gave it to Bakugou with an intention. He feels like calling in sick today, but he can't do that. Aizawa will know something's up right off the bat. He doesn't want to explain anything to him. That'll just be uncomfortable. He, Kami, and Bakugou were all going to be on Aquamarine today, Izuku's favorite boat. They'd be out there all day, and Aizawa would expect them to take a trip to the lighthouse. This sea was big and vast, other boats from other towns sailing as well. It was Aizawa's fishery on the roster to watch the lighthouse tonight. They'd barely get any sleep, but Izuku loved going there. When he got to the docks, Bakugou was already there, standing beside a worried-looking Aizawa. Izuku pulls his hair into a small bun and walks up to them. Is everything okay? He asks. Aizawa frowns. You and Bakugou will be the only ones on Aquamarine today. Kami isn't coming into work. Izuku furrows his eyebrows. What happened? Apparently, Kami's grandfather clock seemingly toppled over, and she stepped on the glass shards. She's at the infirmary now. She'll be fine. She just can't walk on her foot for a few days. The glass made some pretty deep cuts. A grandfather clock falling over is damn near ridiculous. But Shinsu sent photos. I sent him to drive her to the infirmary. Izuku cuts his eyes towards Bakugou. Clock necklace sitting right on his neck. I'll visit her tomorrow to check on her myself. Izuku simply says, almost sprinting away from them. So now it was just he and Katsuki. Great. Izuku boards Aquamarine and sets everything up for today's voyage. Bakugou steps onto the boat, and Aizawa looks at both of them. Bakugou has your map for today. You're going to fish in the area I've circled now that 𝗵𝗃 isn't here. It's by Coral Cove. When you're finished, come back, and we'll take the fish from you. I don't care what you do after that, but you better be at the lighthouse before it gets dark. He also wanted to be angry at Bakugou for buying him a book, and he was. Thank you very much, because he's never acted like he needed a handout once from that bastard. But when he saw which book it was, he had to reluctantly accept it was a good purchase. He never takes the book home with him. He makes sure he only reads in Yagi's bookstore. Yagi looked like he wanted to say something. His eyebrows gave everything away, but he thankfully kept his mouth shut. Izuku could never really snap at that man, but the topic of Bakugou could get him to do damn near anything. Now he has to act like Bakugou buying a book for him is normal, when it isn't. Don't even get him started on the letter. Yes, sir. Both men say. Aizawa nods and walks off. Bakugou stays out of his way as he begins to steer the boat away from the dock out onto sea. If it could stay like this all day, that'd be perfect. But they're going to have to interact. It's smooth sailing so far, and Izuku smiles. 𝗵𝗃 usually steers the boat, but he likes how focused and calm it makes him. A sunny day like this is picture-worthy. He might just take a picture and send it to 𝗵𝗃. Things like that cheer her up. Coral Cove is a patch of land that has coral surrounding it. The coral is a plethora of colors, and the trees provide great shade. It's a great place to set up camp for a night or two. People who live in Bannock do it all the time, so you usually find yourself sharing the cove with others. It's a great way for people to meet up and have a good time. Luckily, when Izuku went with 𝗵𝗃 and her friends, it was just them. Izuku used to like socializing when he was younger, but high school stripped him bare and plastered him with insecurities he didn't even know he had. He's a grown man now, but those years made him doubt himself heavily. He doesn't like to go out that much, but he'll never deny 𝗵𝗃. She's too sweet and fun, and he'd feel like a jackass. He stops the boat and shouts towards Bakugou. We don't have another person to steer the boat, so I'm trusting you with today's catch. When I circle the boat around this school of fish, you release the trawl net. Bakugou nods from where he's standing. Izuku utterly hates the fact that Bakugou isn't wearing a shirt like literally everyone else. He has on a white tank top and work jeans that fit tight to his body. His steel-toed boots aren't as worn as Izuku's, mainly because he hasn't been doing this as long. The itch he can't scratch is back. He feels self-conscious in his clothes. They're out on sea, and none of this a competition. But he can't shake it. He looks away from Bakugou and positions himself back at the steering wheel. Bakugou slips some gloves on and stands by the trawl. Remember, trust your gut, Izuku tells him. Bakugou sends him a thumbs up, and Izuku steers the boat by the school of fish swimming through the water. He counts down in his head, as if he's in Bakugou's place. Hope he gets the timing right. 3, 2, 1. Izuku thinks. Bakugou surprisingly drops the net right when he would, and a feeling of elation shoots through Izuku. He minimizes his time as much as he can interacting with Bakugou, but he's actually listened to him. He's taken all of Izuku's words to heart, and he knows just what to do. Bakugou and Izuku let the net drop as far as it'll go, catching a bunch of fish. Bakugou's strong arms pull on the lever to bring the net back up, and Izuku's impressed. Aizawa will be happy with their catch. Make sure the fish stay in the net, Izuku says to Bakugou. Got it, the man says back, wrangling the net together and making sure no fish flop out of it. They'd done their job fairly quick, and that's only because the fish were readily visible. Days like this are rare. It usually takes at least 2 hours on a voyage to find a good selection of fish. Some days are unproductive entirely, boats coming back to the docks with nothing in their nets. This wasn't so bad being with Bakugou. They didn't chat like they were good friends, and the job got done. It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's, dare he say, relaxing. Katsuki's presence will never be fully relaxing, but Izuku's never felt this calm with the man since they were kids. Izuku steers back to the dock, where Aizawa's chatting with a clipboard in his hand. Izuku gives 3 short blasts of the horn, and Aizawa looks up, waving his hand. Back your boat in, we'll get the fish from there, Izuku does as told, and once 𝗵𝗃 is backed in, Aizawa and some of the crew come help Katsuki put the fish in coolers. Aizawa whistles while Izuku drops the anchor. Damn, what a catch! I might have to pair you two together all the time if this is what we're gonna get, Aizawa gushes, laughing. Izuku and Bakugou leave 𝗵𝗃, and Aizawa puts his arms around both their shoulders. Izuku, I'm gonna need you to document the voyage. Bakugou, you can go, or you can help us with the fish process. We have to make sure they're cleaned and packaged for whoever's gonna buy them. I think I'll help with the fish, Bakugou says. We have to leave for the lighthouse later, anyways. Aizawa pats both of their backs. Izuku, you know what to do. Bakugou, follow me. Bakugou doesn't tell him goodbye. He just walks behind Aizawa. Izuku frowns. Why the hell did he want Bakugou to say something? He doesn't need words from him. He's punched the man for God's sake. Izuku heads towards the employee quarters and plants himself in the charting room. Maps old and new litter the place, and it hits Izuku that he really has stayed in Bannock for 2 years straight. He hasn't gone out of town for anything, really. The only times have been on the anniversary of his mother's death. He'll head back to his hometown for a day, mourn her, and come back to the sea. He pulls out the necessary paperwork to document the voyage. It was clear skies, and not that hard at all, and Izuku didn't see any boats calling for help. He makes an estimate on the amount of fish they caught. Aizawa was going to look over these notes again so he can confirm the actual number. Finishing the paperwork didn't take long, and Izuku found himself bored. Walking out of the charting room, he catches sight of Shinsu. He must be here to visit his father for something. You can't avoid me, Shinsu says, looking at him. Izuku just wanted to slip out of the door. Izuku closes his eyes and sighs. I'm not trying to avoid you. Oh, really? Then how come we haven't talked since Bakugou came to my shop? I've been busy. Shinsu laughs deep from the gut, and Izuku feels a bit offended. He can totally be busy, thank you. Okay, Izuku. Let me talk to my Oyaji first. Then we'll go out to eat, all right? Izuku puts his hands on his hips. Who said I'm going with you? Come on. You're hungry, and you know you miss me. Shinsu gives a cheeky smile, and Izuku rolls his eyes. He can't help that the corners of his mouth are turning up. Fine. I'm still pissed at you, though. Pissed for literally nothing, Shinsu says over his shoulder as he walks towards his dad's quarters. Izuku can hear the man cackling the entire time. Plus. So you and Bakugou, alone on a voyage to the lighthouse. Romantic, Shinsu says, inhaling a fry. Izuku doesn't hesitate to punch him in the arm. Oh, what the hell? That's what you get for talking utter nonsense, Izuku chastises, taking a bite of his burger. Henrietta's diner never failed as an option to eat. Also, there was nothing romantic about going to a lighthouse. They were there to make sure everything went smoothly, and that was it. You gotta admit, if it were anybody else, it would be romantic. Maybe. But it's not. So stop saying that. Shinsu snickers to himself as they both eat. Do you want me to come along? Izuku stops, sipping on his strawberry milkshake. Huh? Do you want me to come with you guys? Protect you from the big, bad wolf that's Bakugou. Izuku almost made a snarky remark, but he stopped. He and Bakugou are going to be out there practically all night. If he has Shinsu as a buffer between them, then maybe the night won't be so awkward. It's one thing to go on a fishing voyage with Bakugou. It's a whole other ballpark to spend the night with him. He hasn't spent a night with Bakugou since he was in middle school. Yes, actually. Join the fun. Shinsu sucks his teeth, making an annoyed sound from the back of his throat. There's nothing fun about being in between you two. You need to recognize all the things I do for you. Izuku smiles. Yeah, thanks for doing it so willingly. They both dissolve into giggles afterwards, and Henrietta comes out, carrying a piece of cake. Shinsu, here's that cake you wanted, honey. Shinsu takes the cake and gives her a big smile. Izuku liked Shinsu's smiles. They reminded him of the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. He meant every smile he gave out, but it always looked a bit off. That was just Shinsu though, and Izuku values the man. There's not another person like him. Izuku peers at the cake and shoots Shinsu a withering look. Carrot cake? You're deranged. Shinsu takes a bite and shrugs his shoulders. I don't visibly gag every time you eat the cherries from a milkshake, so shut up. Izuku laughs, holding his stomach. A comfortable silence descends between the both of them as they finish their food. By the way, Shinsu starts, digging in his pocket. He pulls out a very polished ring. The crystal centered is obsidian, and it shines as a counter to the white body of the ring. Put this ring on for me. Shinsu, I thought we both agreed we don't like each other. Shinsu's face sours and Izuku can't help but snort. Wear the ring, please. Why? Do you have something to share with the class? The class wouldn't be able to comprehend it. Suddenly, it's as if the air vanishes from the diner. Shinsu pierces him with a stare, and it feels as though everything around them is muted. Izuku can only focus on Shinsu. Where were they again? Put it on. It's for your own good. Izuku finds himself slipping it on his ring finger faster than his mind can process. He blinks once, and it's as if everything is back to normal. Shinsu is snacking on his carrot cake, and Henrietta is greeting another customer. When he looks at his finger, the ring sits there, quite beautiful. Shinsu, what? No clue. Shinsu interrupts, licking icing off of his fork. Izuku really wants to question what just happened, because something did just happen, but for some reason he can feel the urge slipping away. He says nothing else as he sips on his milkshake. Plus, he and Shinsu bullshit around for a couple more hours before they head back to the dock, Aquamarine ready at any time to leave for the lighthouse. Many of the crew are outside as well, and Izuku spots a completely topless Bakugou hauling around crates of equipment. He's all sweaty with the grime of sea and dirt on him, and Izuku readily looks away. Bakugou slings a towel around his shoulder and Mizuo pats him on the back, seemingly hard. Izuku has a twinge of something, where he hopes Bakugou didn't push himself too much. He only feels this because of the trip to the lighthouse. All right? Are we about to go? Shinsu asks, rubbing his eyes. I brought snacks for this. When did you get snacks? I have my ways with Henrietta. Izuku shakes his head fondly at Shinsu and finds Aizawa talking to Mizuo and Bakugou. Aizawa, I think we should leave now, Izuku says, interjecting into the conversation. Aizawa nods, wrapping up whatever he was saying. He turns towards Izuku and hands him a key. You're right. It's not too late, but it's not too early. Aizawa looks at his son. What are you doing here? I thought you'd be playing cards with Yagi. Izuku found out a few months into his stay in Bannock that Aizawa and Yagi were a couple. He was very happy for them seeing as they were complete opposites. Yagi apparently helped raise Shinsu when he was younger as well, so he considers Yagi as his second father. I'm going with Izuku and Bakugou. Aizawa's permanent facial expression is one of apathy, but his eyebrows raise up. He squints at Shinsu, and it's as if they're both having a silent conversation with just their eyes. Bakugou and Mizuo have tuned into this father-son showdown as well. Fine, Aizawa finally says. Don't let him get into anything. I swear to God, Shinsu, if I catch word that you pulled something, Shinsu groans. Relax, Dad, Jesus. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm a grown man. The fact that you're grown hasn't stopped you from doing shit. Aizawa deadpan, walking away. Mizuo whispers something to Bakugou, pats him on the shoulder, and walks off. Hey, what'd he tell you? He didn't want to share with the rest of us. Shinsu whines. Bakugou laughs a bit. It was about the boat, fool. Bakugou walks into the employee quarters and comes out with a backpack. Izuku trusted Shinsu with his things, so that was all with him. The air was cold, but not ridiculously so. It couldn't be cold to Bakugou. The man still hasn't put on a shirt or jacket. All three of them board Aquamarine and Izuku takes his position at the steering wheel. You both know what to look for. Let's make sure the trip is a safe one. Izuku honks the horn once, and slowly but surely, they pull out the dock. Shinsu's already snacking on a packet of gummies, and Bakugou's going through text messages. The sun is diluted by the clouds, but it's still a pretty presence. That was one thing Bannock had that a city did not. He could open his window, and whether it was sunny or a rainy day, the scene was gorgeous. Izuku briefly looks down, and he sees Shinsu and Bakugou in a conversation. He wonders what they're talking about. The ride is a little bumpy, the waves were a bit strong, but not too bad as they make their way to the lighthouse. Usually, a man by the name of Bernard takes care of the lighthouse. He's a dark-skinned man with long dreadlocks, and he had a scratch on one of his eyes. Izuku asked about it one time, but Bernard told him he could never know. Bernard was covered in tattoos, each coming with its own tale. He was a well-traveled man, and he said he liked the peacefulness of being a lighthouse keeper. The next town over was named Andalusia. Izuku's never been, he's just seen it from the lighthouse. He's not much of an explorer. Bernard lived in Andalusia. After he got married and had a daughter, he had to cut his time with watching the lighthouse shorter. Because of this, a system was made where sailors and men who worked at fisheries would take turns watching the lighthouse when Bernard couldn't. That system's been in place for years now. He hopes he sees Bernard. Having a child didn't stop him from inking up, and Izuku loved the stories. Pulling Aquamarine by the lighthouse's dock, all three men take in the sight. This lighthouse is between the two towns, nestled on a small patch of land. All three men hop off the boat, and Izuku leads the way. Isn't this scenery so cool? Wish I had a camera. Shinsu comments. You have a phone. Bakugou notes. Shinsu shakes his head. No, I need a camera. A phone wouldn't do this sight justice. Izuku loved being at the lighthouse at night because of the utterly peaceful feeling he got. But he couldn't deny it was also a bit eerie. Lighthouses run on automated machines, but people still have to be here to watch in case something does go on, or we need to relay a message out to boats. We'll just make sure the machine is running periodically, and set up camp for the night. I usually wake up early to sail back, but since I'm not alone I won't do that. Izuku says. They all make it to the red door of the lighthouse, and Izuku uses the key Aizawa gave him to open the door. There's a faint light, and out steps Bernard. You're here. Hello, Izuku. Izuku smiles at the man. Hey. You can head home. We've got it covered from here. Bernard scratches his beard, keys jangling in his hand. Izuku saw his boat by the dock. The last time I saw you, I told you I'd tell you the story of the tattoo on my neck. I've got time to kill. It's mommy-daughter day. Izuku chuckles a bit. I'm up for a good story. Shinsu interjects, settling down on one of the couches. Bakugou looks around. I thought lighthouses were creepy. I didn't know they were this spacious. Bernard takes a seat in a wooden chair and nods. Lighthouses have two rooms essentially. The first floor, which is what we're on, and the very top, which houses the light. The first floor is usually renovated so it can feel more open. Lighthouse keepers used to go mad because of the isolation, but we're in modern times. You can store your food in here. There's a bed. We have to make it comfortable. Izuku sits next to Bernard, and Bakugou next to 𝗧𝗵𝗃. Bernard bares his neck for all of them to see. Inked on his skin is a key and padlock. The padlock is in the shape of a heart. There is a legend that says everyone is born with a padlock, and only their true love has the key to open their heart. My wife has the key to mine. 𝗪𝗪𝗢 was our first time meeting up after 10 years. I wasn't very nice to her when we were in college. I hurt her because I was afraid to show my true feelings. It was the most cowardly thing I've done in my life. After college ended, I knew she was the one for me. I regretted my actions constantly. I could never be with anyone for a long time because I was hoping she'd come back into my life. Izuku noticed Bakugou was listening intently. I've always been fascinated with boats, and when I realized I utterly hated a corporate job, I drummed up enough money to hop from town to town, sailing and living carefree. I'd settle in a town for a year, work there, and watch the lighthouse. I realized I didn't mind living in a lighthouse. It was away from everyone, and when I would eventually leave, it wasn't much for me to pack up. Years later, I end up in 𝗪𝗪𝗢. 𝗪𝗪𝗢, sister town to 𝗵𝗃. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 says. Bernard nods. Exactly. I remember going to the grocery store, and I couldn't believe my eyes. There, standing in the produce aisle, was my wife. She aged just like I had, but not by much. She was just as beautiful as I remember her, probably even more. I had nothing else to lose, so I talked to her. I tried to anyway. She shut me down almost immediately. A lady named Chiyo cheered me on every day. She told me to keep talking to her, let her know how sorry I am. She even gave me this ring for good luck. Bernard holds his hand out, and there sits a white rabbit on a polished wooden ring. I'd like to think day by day I chipped away at the mess I had made. One day, my wife sat me down and asked me why had I been so mean to her. Bernard sighs, rubbing his face with his hand. I let everything go. Told her my issues. Told her that it's the one thing I regret the most. I told her I wanted to be a better man, and I told her I loved her that day. She didn't say it back to me until a year later, but she appreciated the honesty. I had nothing to hide anymore. My childhood was a cold one, and I didn't know how to love. She showed me how. The rest is history. 𝗪𝗪𝗢 just feels like home now, and we're having the best time raising our little girl. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 claps. That was beautiful. But wait. You said a lady by the name of Chiyo lives in 𝗪𝗪𝗢? 𝗧𝗵𝗃 asks. Izuku catches Bakugou's eye. He looks away quickly and Bernard stands up, stretching. Yes. She's been there forever. Bernard glances at his phone. Shit, my wife is texting me. They're heading home, so I should, too. You guys have a fine night, all right? Bernard says, walking towards the door. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 stands up, reaching in the backpack and grabbing a few snacks. Could I catch a ride with you? I think my father knows this woman. I need to talk to her. Bernard shrugs. Sure. Do you have a place to stay? I'll figure it out. See you later, guys. Izuku wants to cuss him out, but he just squints his eyes. Was this 𝗧𝗵𝗃's plan all along? Both men leave, 𝗧𝗵𝗃 practically slamming the door behind him. I'm going to kill his ass, Izuku says, frowning. Bakugou's silent. Plus, it's only been an hour since 𝗧𝗵𝗃 abruptly left, and the atmosphere hasn't gotten any less awkward. There's only one bed in this lighthouse, and Izuku isn't sleeping on the floor. He has a feeling that if he insists on having the bed, Bakugou will just give it to him. Izuku leaves Bakugou to his own devices, while he climbs up the stairs to the top of the lighthouse. He has to make sure everything is running smoothly. They do have a job being here. It takes him a minute, but he finally gets to the top. Going up the stairs used to freak him out, but that's a thing of the past. He watches idly as the light rotates, shining on the sea. It's dark now, and stars are twinkling in the sky. Shinsu wasn't lying about this being romantic. He hears faint footsteps, and Bakugou's standing there. There's a can of beer in his hand, and he finally has on a shirt. "Took you long enough?" Izuku mutters. "Huh?" Bakugou asks. Izuku shakes his head. "Nothing." "What are you doing here?" Bakugou sighs. "Can't a man just enjoy the sight? You could go see it outside." Bakugou unexpectedly huffs a laugh. "You're not wrong." Izuku eyes the can of beer. "Are you trying to get drunk?" he asks. Bakugou shrugs. "Shinsu did a dick thing and left. I know you probably asked him to come since Kami isn't with us. But he did look surprised to hear Chiyo's name, whoever that is." Izuku had to agree. Shinsu seemed genuinely shocked Bernard said the name Chiyo. "I didn't ask him to come," he volunteered. Bakugou's silent, not looking at Izuku. "You want a can?" he asks after a minute. "Those are Bernard's drinks. He can replace him. Come on." Bakugou doesn't wait for Izuku to follow him. He just leaves. Izuku bites his nails. He had no problem drinking. He was just a lightweight. 2 cups of beer can get him damn near sloppy drunk. He hates it, and he knows that if he drinks he might get too truthful. The ring Shinsu gave him tightens a bit around his finger. He jerks his hand upwards, looking at it. That was weird. Very weird. He ignores that because what good would it do to tell Bakugou about it, and decides to head downstairs. He shouldn't drink, but he knows if his inhibitions are lowered, he might be able to voice his disdain for Bakugou in a way the man might truly get. In a way it might truly hurt him, and make him finally leave Bannock. His time here has been interesting and all, but it has to end soon. Bakugou isn't going to stay in Bannock forever. He already said he was skirting responsibilities. No matter how far you run away from something, it always catches back up to you. Izuku sees that himself now. When he's downstairs, Bakugou's sitting on the couch, 2 beer cans on the table. Izuku slowly walks towards the couch and makes sure there's a considerable amount of space between the two before he grabs a can. He pops the cap and takes a sip. Beer doesn't taste that great to him, but he can't help but drink it anyways. "So we're literally just going to sit here drinking?" Izuku asks. Bakugou nods. "You definitely don't want to talk about anything, and I'm not here to pressure you." So they drink. They scroll on their phones, listen to the crash of the waves, and drink to their heart's content. Izuku gets that liquid feeling in his limbs, and his eyes droop. He's drunk. He knows this, but that doesn't stop him from taking another sip. It's as if he's moving through honey or something. There's a pushback. He knows he could just conk out on the couch right now, but he doesn't want to. Bakugou is next to him, and isn't it perfect? He never thought he'd see this man again. Bakugou makes him feel so many things. Bakugou doesn't look drunk, and it's not fair. He tells him so. Bakugou chuckles. "Jesus, do you not know your own limit?" he asks. Izuku pouts. "Shut up." Shinsu left. Everything's awkward, but this makes it less awkward. Bakugou tries to take the can from Izuku, but Izuku pulls back at the last second. "I'm still drinking this." Bakugou sighs. "I should have never done this. Give me the can, you're done." Izuku frowns. "You don't tell me what to do. Why should I listen to you?" "You don't have to listen to me. I just need you put the can on the table and lie down. I won't be vulnerable around you." Bakugou stops. "You're not being vulnerable around me. If anything, I'm vulnerable around you," he says softly, softer than Izuku's ever heard him talk. He likes it. He hates that he likes it. Tears are on the cusp of his eyes. What's wrong? Bakugou asks. Izuku does put the can down, but he curls in on himself. The ring tightens a bit and Izuku speaks. You're the problem. You hurt me. He simply says, because that's really all it is. He could go into grand detail. He could yell. He could scream. But he doesn't want to. The issue is simple. Bakugou hurt Izuku. Bakugou hesitates. You're right. I did. And I know you don't want to hear it, but I truly am sorry. Izuku tries to sit up, but his body isn't cooperating with him. He flops on the couch, his hand brushing against Bakugou's. Are you really? Izuku asks. Yes. Bakugou affirms. I want to fix it. Tell me what I should do. The ring tightens again, and Izuku finds himself speaking before his mind can catch up with him. I want you to grovel at my fucking feet for forgiveness. I want you to give me back the years of my life where I could have had fun, but I was too busy hating myself. I want you to suffer. I want you to give me a hug. I want you to tell me why you did that to me. Izuku looks him in the eyes, tears running down his face. Why did you do that to me? We were best friends. Bakugou's crying himself, and he sniffles, looking away. I did it because I. Tell me the truth, Izuku shouts. The ring slips off his finger and falls to the ground. It sounds louder than it probably is. Damn it, where'd it go? Izuku mutters. Bakugou picks it up off the ground and slips it onto his finger. I'll keep this with me. You're going to lose it. Izuku closes his eyes. You still didn't answer my question. Why did you do it, Katsuki? Because I was in love with you and I was scared. He blurts. Bakugou looks downright scared that he said it, but something flutters inside of Izuku. You. Ignore that. I can't. You can. You have to. How can I? Izuku says, voice quiet. The fluttering feeling is leaving him, and is now being replaced by white-hot anger. How can I forget shit like that? That's what you do to people you love? Bakugou shakes his head. He seems like he's internally fighting himself, but his mouth flies open. I was scared of being with you. Why is that? Am I that disgusting to you? You're a man, Bakugou shouts, cowering in on himself. And I was terrified of that. Izuku stops. He realizes they're both close to each other's face. Oh my God, Izuku says. Anything else you want to share? I'm engaged to a woman, but I don't love her. I still love you. Izuku feels tired. His arms move, and he grasps Katsuki's face in his hands. I can't believe I feel love towards an idiot like you, he murmurs. Bakugou's eyes widen. Izuku feels himself leaning in, but Bakugou turns his face at the last minute. He ends up face planting Bakugou's cheek. A pang of hurt thrums through him. You need to go to bed, Bakugou whispers. Izuku, with the last amount of energy he has, pushes himself up to face Bakugou. You don't even know what to do. I can figure it out. Bakugou puts his arm underneath Izuku's legs and hikes the man up in his arms, bridal style. Izuku should be embarrassed, and under normal circumstances, he would have fought Bakugou. But he finds himself leaning into his warmth. The man has always ran like a furnace ever since they were kids. Izuku's glad to know that hasn't changed. Bakugou makes his way to the bed and helps Izuku in it. Where are you sleeping? Izuku asks, his words slurring. On the couch. Bakugou turns to leave, but Izuku whimpers. I've been alone for years now. Why are you leaving me? I want to kiss you, but I can't. Bakugou spouts. He slams his fist against the door. Looking confused, he just admitted that. Go to sleep, Izuku. Bakugou pleads, tone exasperated. You left me before. I'll be a few steps away. Just a few steps. You won't even want to see me in the morning. Izuku turns his face into the pillow. You promise? You broke our promise before. Don't break another one. Bakugou sighs, hanging his head. Izuku can barely remember where he's at. I promise. Bakugou's voice sounds far away. He can't fight it anymore. His body is telling him to rest. So he does. He's so out of it, he can't hear Bakugou's sobs. Right now, he has to,